to your sound settings, your microphone settings, because today we're going to focus on art therapy and music. So it'll be really interesting, and hopefully you'll be able to hear. It might vary a little bit just depending on your speakers and your settings. I actually have my husband here today with us. He's a music therapist in training. His name is Jordan Waters. And so I'm gonna show him real quick. So he's excited. He's gonna be off camera, and he's gonna be providing some music therapy support for us today as we go through. Just a few business things I wanna get out of the way before we get started. I know a lot of you have been through the mindfulness sessions over the past few weeks. For this particular session, it's really important that you have some art materials nearby and lots of paper. You can use any kind of materials, pastels, watercolor, pencils, crayons even, markers, anything that you want to try out. It's a good time to experiment with different art supplies and determine what art supplies help you, and get the most therapeutic value for you. Please ask questions and give comments as we go through. We're going to be leaving time to have some discussion, and I want to respond to your questions. I want to make this tailored to what you're looking for and what you'd like to get out of this session. So please ask questions, make comments. I usually do it like a short presentation at the beginning of our sessions. Today we are going to be talking a little bit at the beginning, but because this is the third session that we've run, or I've run, and you've all sort of been more exposed to it, I want to make this one really much more focused on our art practice and our mindfulness practice. So we're going to be more experiential and more embodied today, okay? So yeah, and then please, if someone can help me remember at the end that it would be great if we could all share our artwork and hold it up so we could take a photo, because last time we didn't do that. I completely forgot. So I'm hoping that for today we can do that. Helen or someone else, please remind me, make an announcement about that if I forget. And I think that's it. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, so for today, we're focusing on exploring visual art, sound, music, mindfulness, and how this all relates to pain management. And I really love the image here. It's a great way to tie art and music together, beautiful painting, and it depicts jazz, right? So, this music, this type of music that's spontaneous and free-flowing. And last week we talked a lot about how the creative process is really about being in a flow state. So it's really about letting time just slip away, allowing the moments to build upon the previous moments, really being in the zone, right? So that's this flow state there's more research coming out about and interest in. And so I thought that was kind of a cool image to represent that. All right, so just as we're getting started, I really think it's important for us to check in with ourselves. So how are you? I'm going to read a short poem just to kind of invite you to the space for today. And what I'd like you to do is focus on what your experience has been today. So, just take a moment and really think about what kind of stress are you bringing into the space today? Did you have a good day? Was it an off day? Were you feeling a lot of pain today? Did you have migraine? Just really take a moment and kind of reflect on your day and think about how it's been for you. And really applaud yourself for showing up today, because you're not just showing up, for Miles for Migraine, right? You're showing up for yourself, for your wellness practice, and to be able to really thrive as you learn these new mindfulness skills. Okay, I'm going to read a poem. It's by Rumi. It's called The Guest House. And this poem is really wonderful. I really think it sets the stage for thinking about non-judgmental awareness, which is a part of mindfulness. So really considering our experience without judgment, approaching it with curiosity. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes, as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So I hope you enjoyed that. And really the spirit of what we are going to be doing today is embracing all experiences that come up for us. Okay, so any emotions that come up, any physical sensations, any migraine symptoms, we're going to try to embrace our whole experience today. This is a slide I like to share every time we meet. So this talks about the healing aspects of art therapy associated with migraine. So really decreasing physical pain. You know, art therapy does not replace the need for medication, but it can shift the focus away from the pain, right? So you're really engaged in this flow state of art making, and you're completely engulfed in it, and it can really support you in your treatment, and being present and focusing away from the pain. Reclaims ownership and sense of control of one's life. So a lot of times we think about migraine sort of taking over our entire lives, right? And really having an impact on how we see ourselves and our identity. So art making can provide a new aspect of one's identity. And expressing what the pain looks and feels like when words are not enough. All right, and the past few weeks we've met, I've shared some artwork from patients that have migraine. And I really wanted to share this one today because this artist specifically approaches their art making with a mindfulness practice. So her name is Priya Rema, and I love what she's written about her artwork here. And her art is actually an experience of her visual symptoms of migraine. So when she closes her eyes, these are the images that she sees, and she tries to capture them as accurately and as vividly as possible. And I just found this fascinating. So she writes, each piece I create evolves from a meditative and introspective process, wherein I become one with my art. It is being aware in that moment, being mindful, acknowledging the pain and the chaos, and losing myself to the visual symphony that unfolds. Some notes are peaceful, and others are discordant. I train myself to paint through the painful discomfort. My breathing slows down, my jaw unclenches, and my body slowly begins to relax. Often completing a painting acts as relief and reminds me that my mind can do more than just process pain. It can transform pain into beauty. Wow, I think that's just so powerful. And I would love to know what your thoughts are about this painting or about this artist, and if you've ever had an experience like this as you've created art. So absolutely, and I can't actually see the chat because my screen shares on. So if Helen, if you could let me know if there's anything interesting or anything I should respond to, please do.
We actually have someone on that has one of her paintings. So
no way.
Yeah. So
amazing. Wow.
Patient warrior. So it reminds me of the beauty that can come from pain, which is her comment.
Wow. How cool. Yeah,
great.
It's such a small and wonderful community, and it's great to see that there are other patients and artists supporting one another in their path. Okay. And here are some things to keep in mind. Again, I share this slide every time we meet. So in art therapy, we believe that everyone has the ability to be creative in some way. And like we talked about last week, it may not necessarily be visual art for you. You know, if that's not something that you resonate with, we can find creativity in the everyday aspects of life. And so even cooking, or I think someone last week said mowing the lawn and noticing the striped pattern in the grass was something that they were going to look at as a creative practice. floral arrangements, anything that you can do, that if you do it with the belief and the understanding that it is a creative process, then it will become more fulfilling in that way. And you might think about it in a new way to spark some more inspiration. But today we are going to be focusing on visual art and music. And of course, there's no right or wrong way to make art, right? Art is completely subjective. And so that's important to keep in mind, because a lot of times we're told from a young age, oh, that's not good, or we see other kids get their artwork put up on the wall at school, right? But we never did, maybe. So we have all this inner criticism that comes up sometimes, and shame around art making. So I really just want to remind people that this is a safe place to share, and a safe place to explore some of this for yourself, okay? Today we're going to be approaching this art process with spontaneity and play. So again, there's no right or wrong. And exploring the materials is really important. So exploring what materials work for you. This is going to be important because some materials might aggravate your migraine symptoms. Okay, so again, we talked about the different materials: paper, markers, oil pastels, watercolor, crayons, anything that you can get your hands on, even basic office supplies we can be creative with, you know, so basic pens and stuff like that. And also another thing to consider today is we are going to be listening to a variety of sounds and music. And so pay attention to what sounds and music may aggravate your migraine symptoms as well. It's intended to be therapeutic, but you know, there could be things that you just don't respond to or resonate with, right? So please be mindful of that. And kind of leads us into our next one, which is no expectations, just invitations. So if anything does feel uncomfortable to you, or you're not resonating with it, feel free to do this your own way. You know, it's really just the intention of having a creative structure and space for us to come together as a community and to engage in a process. But if the structure that we're creating today feels restrictive, or it feels like it's not working, feel free to, you know, turn the volume down on your audio, so you don't have to necessarily listen to the sounds, or feel free to you know, do whatever you need to do to kind of make this your own, and trust the process. That's something we like to say as expressive arts therapists. Okay. Oh, and I loved this little quote here: life without music would be flat. I thought that was really funny. So this is going to lead us into our warm-up. And, you know, for today, this is just going to be a fun, creative warm-up to get you in the spirit and the flow of things. And we're going to listen to a selection of music and sounds that are going to be done live. And what I want you to do is have paper available and have a variety of colors if you can. If you don't, that's okay. And we're going to go through each one, each instrument or each music piece, and you're going to try to just create a line or color or shape that just sort of reflects the movement of the music. Okay, so there's really no right or wrong here. Just try to allow your hand to flow how it wants to as you're listening to the music. Okay, so you're almost representing the music, representing the rhythm in some way, lines, shapes, colors, anything abstract. Okay, to get us started, get your paper out and anything to write with, draw with, okay? And we're just going to start by scribbling on the page. So take your dominant hand and take your pen, pencil, marker, what have you, and I want you to just make scribbles. Feel like a child yet? Brings me back to being a kid. Okay, and then use your non-dominant hand if you can now, and make scribbles as well, just all over the page, okay? Okay, now shake out your hands, if you will. The whole purpose is just to be loose, right? No judgment here. No one can see what you're doing, you know, so it's a great time to play. All right, and we're gonna get started with our sounds, okay? So get a fresh, clean piece of paper ready for yourself and choose a new color, okay? And we're gonna have the first sound. Okay. Now we're gonna move on to our next sound. So feel free to switch colors for this one. All right. Now we're gonna move on to our next sound. Okay. Now we're gonna do the next one. All right. Now, I've got a few more for you, okay? Here's the next sound. All right. Just got a couple more for you. And now I think this is our last one. All right. So you can kind of bring your drawings to a close for the time being. And I'm curious how that was for people as a warm up to just kind of explore the different sounds. And so if anyone has any feedback, that would be really interesting and helpful as we kind of move forward.
So we have varying comments, if you can see them.
Oh yeah.
Interesting, fun, different, like the difference in sounds.
Yeah.
Switch colors based on the sounds. A lot of sounds evoked memories. Some of the sounds were irritating.
Yeah. Interesting. Would anyone like to share the lines and the colors that they were making, like by sharing your camera and putting that on the screen so we can see? I see some interesting things happening.
You could stop sharing your video and go to gallery mode so we could see various,
Yeah,
what some of you did.
I think there's a few people. Really interesting stuff. Wow, thank you for sharing. Awesome.
The music definitely made you switch colors and patterns. Don't you all agree?
Yeah, it kind of helps us to be more aware of how different sounds and different music impacts our life and our perception. You know, so you could be going throughout your day and maybe there's a lot of noise pollution, right? Maybe the sound from the traffic outside, or there's other things that might be affecting you in some way. So mindfulness is really about paying attention to these things around us. So I think the most important part of this exercise is noticing the shift in your perception and how you experienced each of the sounds. So very, very interesting stuff. Does anyone else have anything to say before we get into a longer meditation and mindfulness? Sounds like it brought up a lot of questions.
And someone's commenting that they switched colors and patterns based on the music, and I felt the same way. Like in the beginning, it was like, oh, this is wonderful. You could see how that would be soothing, and then all of a sudden, some of the music that came on was like, okay, you get that when the world is coming down upon you, whether it's pain or whether you're overwhelmed by all the things you have to do and accomplish, and you're not feeling well, and the music represented that.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, and so I want to thank Jordan for helping us a little bit with that music. I did a little of the percussion, but he was playing the majority of those instruments. And in his training as a music therapist, I don't know if he wants to say anything about this, but I know he's working on using sounds to modulate emotion and mood. So someone in the chat says, do you use music in your therapy? I do use music in my therapy, in my practice with people. And sometimes it's expressive arts therapy as a whole. So we're using music, maybe we're playing instruments, creating images, doing some writing or some poetry, even movement. So there's a lot to it. Yeah.
I think
Jordan,
it's
is there?
interesting to notice the more that we have you, Jen and Jordan, thank you for joining us, is that you see that arts is more than just
Yep.
you know, picking up a pencil or a paintbrush and painting. It's all of those, whatever
Yeah.
that word is.
Yeah. Mediums, modalities.
All those
I
mediums,
think
exactly.
I think that's something that happens in academia and research is where they try to narrow down studies to use a certain art modality. And so it becomes very siloed into the different types of art and creative practice rather than seeing it as a whole. So that's something that happens. But in my work, and there's a lot of other expressive art therapists that feel similarly, that it's really the integration of different art practices and creative practices that are most helpful.
I think the calling it creative practices is huge. We talked about that last week, and you already referenced that there's so many ways many of us are incorporating creative practices in just very simple everyday practices, whether it be cooking, as you say, mowing the lawn. I love that theory. Whatever, a clean house. All of those things are actually creative practices, rather thinking about it as art per se.
Exactly. I wanted to ask Jordan if there's anything that he wanted to share about that process or what your perception was or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say thank you for having, let me hold some space there with you all. And I really don't have anything to say except that I enjoyed the process, and I hope you did too. And yeah, just to know that yeah, to be mindful of the different sounds, like Jen was saying, what sounds we like, what we don't like, all in the middle. So yeah, so other than that, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and
Thank you. I have to ask him before he leaves.
yeah,
As I said, I noticed my own, everyone has their own personal, it's just like art, music, it's the same. There's no right or wrong. It's, you might like one thing, I might like another. It's like chocolate and vanilla. And that's the beauty to me of a creative process. But, oh, forgive my, is it offensive when someone says like, oh, that was annoying, or it brought upon feelings that I wasn't comfortable with?
yeah.
Is that part of the process? Part of
I yeah, I want to speak to that.
Yeah.
That for me is part of the process with mindfulness, right? It's not about this entering this state of bliss or euphoria, right? Mindfulness is really about acceptance or the ability to look or be curious about whatever state we're in or whatever it is we feel, and observing that in a non-judgmental way. So I think there is a lot of bias about what is meditation or mindfulness, right? So it's really just the process of awareness and returning to your awareness, and with that it enables us to make decisions that are honoring what we genuinely want. So if we can look at and really ask ourselves, gee, how does this feel for me in my body and emotionally? What kind of responses? We're really slowing down and looking at what kind of responses we're having to these things, then we can be more empowered to make a decision about it. Decision about what we like or what we don't like. But rarely do we ever slow down enough to get to that point where we can make decisions that we actually want to make intentionally, rather than just buzzing throughout our day, right? So, yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're going to move into the next part. We got about 10 more minutes, maybe 15 more minutes. So we're going to do a little bit of a breathing exercise, a little bit more of a quiet internal practice, and then we're going to listen to some music, and you're going to create a little bit more art as we go through the music process. Okay. So just for now, if you can find a place just to be able to get comfortable in yourself and in your body. So really just start to feel your back on the chair or wherever you're sitting, maybe noticing your feet on the floor. And you can close your eyes for a few moments if you'd like, or you can, keep your attention on something in the room, maybe a certain object in your room or a certain spot on your wall or something like that. And so we're going to take some time to practice breath work and focus intentionally on our breathing for a moment here. So I'm just going to ask you to turn inward and really starting to notice your breath moving throughout your body and noticing if it feels shallow or if it feels full. And if there's any change so far from when you entered your space, this space, when we read the poem at the beginning, and what you were bringing into the room, is there any change in how you're feeling now? And just start to fill your lungs from your belly, really filling your lungs with air, almost like it's a balloon. You're inflating, and then you're slowly deflating. And do this a few times just to become more aware. Inhaling and exhaling. Or if it's more comfortable just to focus on your breath and its natural rhythm, you can do that as well. As you notice your mind start to wander away, gently return back to noticing your breath. And imagine that as you notice your breath, you're inhaling relaxation and you're exhaling any tension that you have. Okay. And now for the next several moments, I want you to focus primarily on the music that you're about to experience. And when the music comes on, feel free to use any art materials that you have nearby and try to capture your experience of the music. Be open to any colors and textures that come up, and notice how the melody feels inside of your body. What does the music look like to you? And try to create a visual representation that honors your experience right now with the music. Okay, so you can slowly come back to the room, move your body a little bit, and we'll have the next several minutes to create as you're listening to the music. So as you hear the music ending, you can start to bring your art making to a close, although you may not be done for today. You may return to this artwork at any time that you want, when you're ready to, if you want to continue to explore it more. I always recommend that. And so just take a minute to transition out of that space. You can put any last touches or anything that you want onto your work. All right, so maybe give a few minutes for discussion or what people thought of that process, what came up for you. Did you notice any emotions or any experiences that you had internally that came up through that process? Any reactions or responses?
Please feel free to put it in your chat, or I'm sure you could put your audio on if you like.
Mm-hmm.
That last bit of music was beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks for finding some good music for us, Jordan.
Could listen to that all night.
I know. And what I really like about this activity is that this is something you can do at home. You can try to experiment with finding new pieces of music that might be soothing for you, and really just allow yourself to become lost in the colors and the sounds and the process to alleviate yourself of any stress or anything that you'd like.
So that's a very practical experience. You're saying that people could put on a musical piece and just turn everything else off and create on their own paper as part of their mindfulness.
Definitely. Yeah, I
It's
would
very
highly
practical.
recommend that. Yeah, I really recommend that to a lot of the clients I work with. And again, to be selective about the music that you choose, because it can really influence us in some ways that we don't realize. So, if it's music that really gets you energized, that might lead to, you creating a different kind of art experience. That if it's music that maybe brings you more internal and makes you feel more reflective, right? So music has different qualities, and that's a totally subjective experience. So really pay attention to that, because there could be some music that you love on some days that could maybe not be so great, if you're in a pain state, or if you need something more gentle or whatever that is for you.
Great advice. Great
Yeah.
practical advice.
Well, I'm noticing there's a lot in the chat. Really thank you for everyone for participating and sharing. I'm seeing that it was nice to get, for Deb, it was nice for her to get her hand moving, getting lost in the music and movement, creating color. Someone said it reminded them of the Holocaust. And another person said it was thinking about Platoon. It was an intense selection of music that felt beautiful at the same time and yet sad. I liked the music, reminded me of a sunset, and it was nice to paint with. Thank you for your feedback. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of people got lost in the music, in the process, which is wonderful. That's really what we're intending. And a lot of abstract images come up. I'm curious if anyone created anything specific or noticed a specific type of image arise, or if it was more just abstract for you. That's also another interesting thing to reflect on. Yeah, and it sounds like some feelings of sadness came up for people too. So check in with yourself and notice that. Maybe you wanna ask yourself like where that's coming from. And as we wrap up our time today, do what you need to do to take care of yourself this evening. If it did bring up something for you. Yep.
Would anyone like to put on their video and share their pieces? Please feel free to do so, to go into gallery mode if you'd like to show the artwork that corresponded with how you felt
Wow.
about the music.
Thank you, Deb, for sharing your piece. If anyone else wants to share, please do. Thank you, Sarah and Alana. Wow, these are very interesting. I'll share my piece too. So funny. I was focused so much on the presentation today that I did not bring art supplies. So I literally have a pen, well, two different colored pens and some lined paper. So this was mine. Yeah. Very cool. Wow. You know what? I see some kind of threads through some of the work that we created. A lot of different lines and colors. And does anyone notice any similarities to any of the pieces that they're seeing? Wow. So interesting.
That's fantastic. You
Yeah.
see a lot of movement, right? A
Yeah, I
lot of
noticed.
movement.
Yeah, if anyone has a word to describe anything that they're seeing in the images, like movement or anything that you want to add, flowy, lines up and down, high, low, full and thin. Yeah. And Jordan, someone was asking what the music piece was.
We can type it in the chat.
Yeah.
Here, let me get it.
He's going to get that for you, so we'll type it in the chat.
Great.
Adagio for strings.
Samuel Barber is the name of the artist.
I think the composer, yeah. Adagio for strings. I don't know if they want, who did it was the London Philharmonic Orchestra.
Okay.
They want that version.
Okay, I put it in the chat, so feel free to check that out. Oh, I accidentally put it as private. Samuel Barber. All right, everyone. Oh, sorry about that. It looks like I sent a Zoom meeting link too. Not sure why that happened. Must have been saved in my copy paste. But anyway, just ignore that.
I'm trying to do that too. Did we get it in there?
Yeah, if you see, it's Samuel Barber, and it's called Adagio for Strings, performed by the London Philharmonic Orchestra.
There you go. I see it now. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, Jen and Jordan. What a lovely session. I always come away feeling both refreshed, mindful, relaxed
Yeah.
after your sessions,
Thank you.
and creative, which I never feel like calling myself creative. So I always appreciate the fact that I feel that way after your sessions, and I hope the rest of you do as well.
You are creative, Helen.
Thank you, all of you, for joining. And I'm sure we're going to try and lock Jen and Jordan into future sessions because they're so valuable. And one note that I will say, we have evaluated the conversions from our registrations for our mindfulness series, and we are going to push back the last 2 weeks and move a little bit back later on Eastern Standard Time to a 7:30 p.m. start. You'll receive notification of that. We understand. We're just trying to find the perfect balance and combination of when's a good time to reach all of you for mindfulness. And we're a little bit worried that 6 o'clock is too early, even on the East Coast. Jen's even on the West Coast. So we're going to push it back. So the last 2 weeks, we're going to go at 7:30 and see if that is more beneficial to all of you to sort of get yourself into the evening with this series of mindfulness, because it is so important to our self-care. And we just can't thank Jen and Jordan enough for being with us. And I'm sure it's not the last that we'll see. We'll see them.
One last thing I want to say is that if anyone has feedback about how this went, please pass that along to Helen or Miles from Migraine. I really want to know what you guys want more of. So if you do want to do more music therapy related things, maybe we can make that happen. Please let me know. We can do all kinds of different art modalities, writing, movement. So I'm open to creating workshops based on the needs of what people are looking for.
Perfect. That's perfect. And I am so really happy that we even had someone comment that their pain level went down. So that's what
Right?
we're hoping for, that we can provide some mindfulness during this crazy time and some comfort. And
Right.
all of you enjoy the rest of your evening. And hopefully we'll see you again shortly.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.